My name is Madeline Kiel. I am from California. I grew up on a cattle ranch just north of San Francisco, south of Tahoe, and I moved to Nashville in 2011 and have been here on and off ever since. So my journey into the art world started when I was about 8 years old. And or probably prior to that, 7, 8, I took my first art class at 8. And I remember it like it was yesterday. It was the studio that was right downtown in this little gold mining town I lived in California. And you would walk downstairs and it was this basement that this woman had turned into a classroom area under this big gallery. And I was obsessed. I was thoroughly obsessed. My dream was to be a painter or a muralist. And so I think that it all started then. It was almost like, call it a calling, call it a destiny, but it was something innately within me that no one had. I wasn't around artists. My parents weren't artists. That wasn't a part of our family culture. It kind of just was, and it came out. And then I was painting a lot until I was about 13, and then I stopped because of bullying and people weren't, didn't really appreciate a good horse drawing. So I ended up stop painting, and then around 22, I picked up a paintbrush again for the first time, and I just would paint probably 3 or 4 times a year, maybe, and it would sell. People would come up to me and want to buy it. People liked it, but I didn't have the courage to actually do anything with it. It was a lot to believe in myself. And I would say my biggest inspiration right now, as I've kind of opened myself up to marketing art, to selling art, to creating a full scale business, has been Mark Maggiore. And he is this phenomenal painter that was trained, I believe, in Paris or in France, and he's French as well. And his story was he was doing music for a long time, and I believe film, and then he just picked up a paintbrush after. I don't know his story exactly, but he started painting, and he paints these gorgeous, breathtaking Western landscapes. And his realism, and yet how much it moves you, I think that's where I'm inspired by his work the most, because I rarely find artists that paint in realism that actually move me. There's a lot of times it's really easy to copy, and copies, it's not the right word, but when you can feel inspired through something that looks exactly like it looks like when you're looking at it in the natural, I think that's pretty incredible. And he's by far one of the best artists like that, in my opinion. And also him capturing the West is a big deal to me, because that plays into my heart behind what I paint and why I paint what I paint. And when painting, I use acrylic, and I've always wanted to get into oils, but I really am enjoying my acrylics. I have to paint really fast, and I really enjoy that. And then I use either bronze or gold or silver leaf to add accents to it that bring it to life in a different way, that give it movement, and where I think oils do give it this movement, but I love to use bronze and gold leaf to do that. I love large-scale canvases. I want to get even bigger, but I need a bigger space. So we got to work on that. I love large scale. I love taking up space, and it just brings you in. And it's not actually like the faces that I'm painting aren't that large. It's just the canvases, and it's this space that's taken up, and it I don't know what it does. I don't know. There's probably some art rule for why it's magical, but I am moved by the space around the space that's around the subject. So large scale. I was actually out in Maasai land in Kenya, and there's this tribe called the Samburu tribe, and I met these men right here. I don't know if you can see them, but these men behind me and this woman. And I kept seeing this like old school moody portrait. I wanted to have it, like when I see these like Renaissance portraits, they just move you. And I don't know how to paint a Renaissance style portrait, but I do know how to paint the way I paint. So I just slowed down and I was paying attention to every detail and just layering and having the color scheme be very earthy and natural. And then my inspiration for the Kenyan woman and the Kenyan men, I was just inspired that I've never even heard of them. I'd never even seen them. And yet all of a sudden I'm face to face with them and we're giving out lollipops and we're enjoying like a treat together, and we're communicating through random social interactions where I can't speak their language and they can't speak mine, but I have video of me and these two older gentlemen behind me laughing while sharing yellow lemon drop lollipops in the middle of Kenya. And if that's something about that, we're so connected. I think that's probably my biggest inspiration is I find that we are so connected to each other and we don't realize how connected we are. We don't realize how innately the same we are, and how when I can slow down and I see, I don't know, someone for who they are, I just love it. It moves me. I don't even know how to really say if it inspires me, but I'm moved by it. And it's how I think I've chosen to live my life even prior to painting, because I would have to slow down for the homeless. So I painted her and I chose to put a halo around her because I wanted to turn her into a saint, and left it as 3/4 because I also I wanted it to be up for interpretation for whoever sees it. So she might not be a saint to some people. She might be something else, but she definitely feels very regal and you know, there's something in her that needed a halo. So. I love to connect with my paintings, and who doesn't, especially as an artist? But for me, when I'm painting all these people, I really like to enter into who the person is. And so I often am praying and blessing the person or asking God to show me who that person is. Like when I was painting Snoop Dogg as a cowboy, I was constantly praying for Snoop, and I was blessing this painting. And funny enough, I was blessing the painting and saying to the painting, you are going to be an amazing painting of Snoop Dogg as a cowboy, and Snoop Dogg's doing a new Western thing, and you're going to be in his Western room. And I kept prophesying or manifesting, whatever word you want to call it, to this painting. And weeks later, it comes out that Snoop's playing a cowboy in a film, and my cousin called me and said that he had signed some country artist to something, and it was just interesting. And then how that whole side has played out in my journey with the Snoop Dogg painting has been wild. But I think that going back to my creative process, I really want to be in tune with what I'm painting and why I'm painting it. And my career path getting into the art world has been all over the place. Now, I had been doing missions for a long time and leading worship, and in the Christian music industry vein, whatever you want to call it. And I left and I moved back to Nashville to become like a blues soul country singer, and had all these connections, been training for the last 3 years for this, definitely can sing my ass off. And it felt like every door there was no magic on it. I don't know if it was something within me or if it was just destiny. And I actually came to this place where I was so worn out and needed money, and I couldn't see myself being a nanny the rest of my life because I would die. And I was like, I just need to start selling my art and marketing what I have because people like it. People always liked it. And within 2 months of me posting something on Instagram, Cowgirl magazine was asking to do an interview with me about my art and the West and why I choose the West. And people were messaging me for commissions, and all of a sudden everything just started opening up, and I was able to pay for my rent and more and be able to rent my own studio, and everything was changing. And then everything started going viral, and then everything just feels like it's attracted. Destiny, I just wrote this, destiny is attracted to like a heart that is open and just trusting the process. And I feel like I'm just enjoying the hell out of this art ride. My biggest, well, not one of my biggest dreams, but my biggest dream is probably music. But it's all gonna tie in. But so this is where I'm at now on my art journey. My dream would be if the buyers, that were interested in my art, that when they bought this piece and they put it in their home, it just spoke to them. And it filled their home with like questions or the ability to slow down and to see the person that's hanging on their wall, to wonder about it. Like for me, that is my favorite. I want to slow people down to see, and it's good for all of us to slow down to see, because actually when we can do that and we can recognize the beauty in someone else, it gets us out of ourselves. And I think God or the universe or whatever you want to call it is really attracted and blesses people's lives when we can slow down and see each other.